Across the Muslim world, there's been strong reaction to UAE's move to establish diplomatic relations with Israel. The Turkish government says it could reassess relations with the UAE. But supporters of Abu Dhabi say the move could help the Palestinians. Is that so? I talked to Palestine's ambassador to Turkey, Faed Mustafa. Mr. Ambassador, we've seen a lot of reaction from different parts of the world. But how do the Palestinians themselves view the latest move by the UAE?
We as Palestinians look at the step made by the UAE with a huge amount of criticism, astonishment and anger, on the official level, public level and on the factions level. We consider the step made by the United Arab Emirates as a violation of the Arab consensus. It's a compliment to Israel that it doesn't deserve. It's a step we condemn and reject. We consider it a betrayal of the Palestinian cause, Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a huge development that an Arab country that's not a direct party in the Arab-Israeli conflict and doesn't have a border with Israel makes such an agreement that includes the enhancement of economic intelligence, investment and commercial cooperation with a country that's occupying Palestinian lands, occupying Jerusalem and controlling Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is a strange and unjustified thing, and we hope that other Arab countries will study this step and stop this deterioration before the time for change is over.
Now, some supporters of Abu Dhabi have been saying that this move is going to halt Israel's illegal expansionism and setting up of new settlements. Is that really going to be so?
We have heard what the Emirati leaders said during their justification for that deal. They have said this deal includes Israeli suspension of plans to annex the Jordan Valley and other areas in the West Bank. However, 30 minutes after that Emirati statement, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said at a press conference not only that he was proud of that deal and considered it a historic deal for Israel, but he also said this deal is peace for peace and there are no commitments required from Israel. He said the annexation plan is still on the table for the Israeli cabinet, and the normalization deal with the UAE doesn't include anything in this regard. That statement undermined the UAE's narrative in its attempts to justify that deal. We also say, don't drape these positions of betrayal with nationalistic rhetoric. That means we don't want them to use the pretense of eagerness to promote Palestinian interests to justify that deal, which we consider treason. The Palestinian people are the decision makers, and they are the owners of the Palestinian lands. We don't want anyone to speak on our behalf or to use us as a cover in their statements that are contradictory to our positions and are against international law and legitimacy.
The Turkish government has said that it could review its relations with Abu Dhabi, but some critics of Ankara have been saying that Turkey itself has diplomatic relations with Israel since 1949. So how different are Turkish relations with Israel when you compare them to, let's say, Abu Dhabi's relations with Israel?
First of all, we highly admire Turkey's position in rejecting the normalization of Emirati-Israeli relations. That strong position was expressed by President Erdogan, the Foreign Ministry, Parliament, political parties, and civil society in Turkey. We consider this position consistent with the Palestinian position. We are communicating and coordinating with our Turkish counterparts and other friends around the world to stand against the UAE action. I think the comparison is out of context, as Turkish-Israeli diplomatic relations have quite a long history and have had their own context. However, we evaluate Turkey according to its positions. They are clear positions in regard to the deal of the century, which was rejected by Turkey from the very beginning, while the UAE has been supporting it, and their ambassador in the US attended the declaration ceremony of that deal. The deal of the century undermines the rights of the Palestinian people and undermines the resolutions of international legitimacy. Therefore, it's completely the opposite. Turkey is standing firm beside the Palestinian cause. It has strong positions in this regard, and this is what distinguishes Turkey from the UAE. In the past 10 years, the UAE has enhanced relations with Israel from behind a curtain, and it has been crowned with this announcement.